A prophecy, a curse, a hero destined to change the ancient world. That is the story of Perseus, slayer of Medusa, rescuer of Andromeda, and a man who defied the gods themselves. But was Perseus truly a hero, or was he just another pawn of fate? Our story begins in the kingdom of Argos, where King Acrisius ruled in fear of a terrifying prophecy. According to the Oracle of Delphi, he would one day be killed by his own grandson. Determined to prevent this, he locked his only daughter, Danae, inside a bronze chamber, ensuring she would never bear a child. But no prison is strong enough to keep out the gods. Zeus, the king of Olympus, saw Danae and was captivated by her beauty. He descended from the heavens in the form of a golden shower, and soon after, Danae gave birth to a son, Perseus. When Acrisius discovered the child, he was horrified. But rather than risk the wrath of Zeus by killing them outright, he placed Danae and baby Perseus inside a wooden chest and cast them into the sea, leaving their fate to the waves. Against all odds, the chest did not sink. Instead, it drifted across the sea until it reached the island of Seriphus, where a kind fisherman named Dictys rescued them. He took them in, raising Perseus as his own. Perseus grew into a strong and courageous young man, but trouble was never far behind. The ruler of Seriphus, King Polydectes, had set his sights on Danae. But with Perseus protecting her, the king devised a cruel trick to get rid of him. At a grand feast, Polydectes announced he expected a gift from every guest. When Perseus had nothing to offer, the king mocked his pride until the young man rashly declared that he would bring back the head of Medusa, the most feared of the three Gorgon sisters. It was an impossible mission, one that no mortal had ever survived. And that was exactly what Polydectes wanted. Fortunately, the gods had not abandoned Perseus. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Hermes, the messenger of the gods, appeared to him, guiding him toward his impossible task. They led him to the Grey, three ancient sisters who shared a single eye between them. By stealing their eye and threatening them, Perseus forced them to reveal the secret location of the Gorgon's lair, hidden beyond the edge of the known world. But information alone would not be enough. To survive his battle with Medusa, Perseus needed divine weapons. Fortunately, the gods would not leave him alone. From them, he received 4 gifts to face his destiny. Hades' helm of invisibility, allowing him to move unseen. Hermes' winged sandals, granting him the ability to fly. A polished shield from Athena to see Medusa's reflection without turning to stone. A magical sword, forged by Hephaestus, sharp enough to slay the monster. Armed with these gifts, Perseus set out for the lair of the Gorgons. The Gorgons were monstrous creatures with living snakes for hair and a gaze that turned any who looked upon them into stone. Among them, only Medusa was mortal, and so she alone could be slain. As Perseus approached the cave where she lived, a chilling stillness filled the air. The entrance was littered with countless stone figures, warriors, beasts, and even birds, each frozen in a final, desperate motion. The sound of hissing echoed through the chamber, the writhing of countless serpents nestled in Medusa's hair. Perseus dared not look directly. Instead, he used Athena's polished shield, watching Medusa only in her reflection. With steady hands, he crept closer, and before she could wake, he struck, one swift blow severing her head. From her lifeless body, 2 magnificent beings emerged: Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, the golden warrior. Perseus quickly collected Medusa's head, placing it inside a magical satchel to prevent its power from harming him. But his journey was far from over. As he flew across the sky on his way home, Perseus spotted a woman chained to a rock, the waves crashing around her. Her name was Andromeda, a princess of Ethiopia, and she had been offered as a sacrifice to a terrifying sea monster. Her crime? Nothing of her own doing. Her mother, Queen Cassiopeia, had boasted that Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymphs, angering the gods. As punishment, Poseidon sent a monstrous creature to ravage their land. The only way to appease him was to sacrifice the princess. But Perseus would not let her die. As the monster rose from the depths, he struck, using Medusa's head to turn the beast to stone. He freed Andromeda, and together they journeyed back to Seriphus. Back on Seriphus, Perseus found that King Polydectes had not kept his word. He had continued to torment Danae, believing that Perseus would never return. But now, the young hero stood before him, victorious. And as Polydectes mocked his so-called impossible quest, Perseus unveiled Medusa's head, turning the wicked king and his men into statues. With the kingdom freed, Perseus made Dictys the new ruler and set off toward his homeland, Argos, to reunite with his grandfather. Though Perseus wished for peace, the gods had one final twist of fate waiting for him. During a sporting event, Perseus entered a discus competition. As he stepped up for his turn, he threw the discus with great force, but fate had already decided the outcome. The discus veered off course and struck an old man in the crowd, his grandfather, King Acrisius. And just like that, the prophecy had come true. Though saddened, Perseus could not change what had been foretold. He chose not to claim the throne of Argos, instead founding the great city of Mycenae, one of the most important cities in Greek history. The story of Perseus is one of courage, destiny, and divine intervention. He was a hero, but his journey was never truly his own. His fate had been written long before he was born. And so, we are left with a question. Was Perseus truly a hero, or was he merely a pawn of fate? What do you think? Let me know in the comments and subscribe if you want to discover together the greatest ancient myths.